India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire after days of conflict. President Trump announcing a short time ago the two nations have agreed to a, quote, full and immediate ceasefire following, quote, a long night of talks mediated by the United States. Now, this de-escalation comes as both sides reported multiple casualties following an exchange of missile strikes overnight, marking the sharpest escalation since the confrontation ignited earlier this week. NBC's Matt Bradley joins us now. Matt, how is the ceasefire holding up at this hour, and how did it come together? Because obviously the fear with any two nuclear powers is escalation.
Yeah, I mean, Christina, this is a really sensitive, tenuous situation because the ceasefire isn't necessarily holding up all that well right now. We just heard from Omar Abdullah. He is the chief minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and he just posted on X about an hour ago, maybe a little more than an hour ago. He said, and he's the highest elected official in Indian-controlled Kashmir. He wrote, "What the hell just happened to the ceasefire? Explosions heard across Srinagar, that's the capital of Indian-controlled Kashmir. This is no ceasefire," he said. "The air defense units in the middle of Srinagar just opened up." So this is a very dangerous situation. It's too early to say that the ceasefire is holding. But, Christina, it's also too early to say that the ceasefire is not holding, because when you see these situations, when we've had them in the past, there is always kind of a period where different units scattered across this large front line called the line of control maybe didn't get the message, maybe are still fighting, maybe are getting misperceptions about incoming fire. So we have to give it some time before we can see whether or not these aberrations are going to be forgiven or whether or not the ceasefire may indeed not hold. But again, you know, as you're talking about, this was some real whiplash all day today, because we started off this Saturday hearing from the Indian side and the Pakistani side that the other side had been targeting their air bases, their military bases, with drones and with missiles. It looked as though when we started the day that this was going to be a real escalation, and all of South Asia, really the entire world, was dreading seeing these two nuclear powers, which are now have exchanged in the past 2.5 weeks, the most fire that they have in the past several decades, that they could come to a real all-out war of the kind that we haven't seen for several years. But it looks as though, thanks to mediation by the Trump administration and by the Gulf countries, the Arabian or Persian Gulf countries, that this is now, both sides have now stepped back from the brink. But this was and remains a very dangerous situation, Christina.